The pattern I'll be sharing with you today has several versions, pants, shorts and a skirt, and today I'll be showing you two pants, sneak peek print, brown, pockets, curved waistbands, fly zippers, lots of sewing to see on this one, so stay with me. Hi sewing friends, my name's Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I'm excited to share with you a new pattern release from Love Notions. I wasn't a pattern tester for this one, I will explain why later, but I did sort of test the pattern non-officially before its release. This pattern is called the Glissando, so it's not only a pair of pants, there's also shorts and a skirt there. It's 25% off because it's a new pattern. You're welcome to use my affiliate link that is down below. What these three options have in common is the curved waistband, the curved pockets on the front, the patch pockets on the back. The way to get into these is through an exposed button fly. They are meant to hit above the ankle, cropped length, and then the shorts and the skirt is a straight skirt that is meant to hit above the knee. So similarities between them, but differences also, and lots for you to choose from. In this video, I am focusing on the pants, the long pants. I am also making skirts, but I will touch on those in a separate video because otherwise this would be an hour long, you know. This pattern has been designed for woven fabrics, non-stretch fabrics. Medium weight would be the best ones. You can see on the screen a list of good choices like linen, chambray, denim, twill, corduroy, that sort of fabric. And I put with an asterisk there, just caution, because this is designed for woven fabrics. Now, if you want to choose a stretch woven, like a stretch cotton or a stretch cotton sateen, it's just not going to fit the same. It's just not going to fit right. It'll probably not fit very nicely at all. And you might end up with a lot of extra ease, just a lot of sag everywhere. So if you are set on making yourself a stretch woven, you need to make a muslin with a stretch woven to assess the fit. The fit will be completely different if you make your muslins with woven, non-stretch, and then you cut the exact same thing on a stretch woven. It's going to fit not very well at all. I know this from experience in the past. I have done that, and I know, you know, just I would rather make a stretch woven pant that is designed for that, to have a little bit of negative ease or maybe zero ease at the hips, would look much better than one that is designed for woven that does have some positive ease for you to be able to move around. The other caution I put here is if you choose fabric that is very heavy, like canvas or just a heavier type denim, it might end up fitting smaller than what you think, because the thicker the fabric, even though the pattern pieces might be the exact same and you're using the seam allowance, it just means that the space inside will end up being smaller because of the thickness of the fabric. So take those things into account when you choose fabric. I would suggest staying with the recommended fabrics. Pants are not the easiest to fit. Not that it's hard, but it is a little bit of a process. And you don't want to skew whatever you've done with your muslin by choosing a stretch woven or a heavier fabric than you've chosen to make your muslin with. So those are just my tips, my points of views. I know a lot of people want to have stretchy things. I know that. But just be aware that the fit will not be the same. It will definitely not be the same with a stretch woven. The Glissando is available in sizes 0 to 32. So it'll go up to a 48.5-inch waist and a hip of 59.5 inches. This is the first one that has something different. So there is a standard pattern there, but there is also an option to choose a pattern piece that has a full belly adjustment. On the size chart, you'll see an extra measurement there, which is the high hip. So you have your waist, your high hip, your hip. If you think you have a bit of a belly, if you take these measurements and you find that the high hip measurement that you have is larger than the hip size there for your size, you might want to try that version that has a little bit more ease in the high hip area where the center front is not completely straight, it is slightly curved. Give that a go if you think that might help you. I haven't tested that. There is a little diagram there so you can see what the intended fit for these garments are. So they all are meant to have a fitted waist, so you have about 0 to 1.5 inches of ease at the waist. They all have in common that the waistband hits at the natural waist. So they aren't mid-rise or anything like that. They are meant to hit at the waist. They are meant to be fitted at the hips. So 1.5 to 2.5 inches of positive ease at the hips, depending on the size. And then after all that fitted area, then the pant just falls straight down from your hips down. If you are sewing a size 2, the width of the leg will be in proportion to the hip. If you compare that to a size 20, If you compare two sizes, of course, one leg will be wider than the other because it's in proportion to the feet on the hips, because it goes straight down. Meant to hit above the ankle, about 2 or 3 inches above the ankle. But you know, this is super personal preference. You can make them shorter if you want to. You can make them full length. The pant leg, when you look at it, is completely straight, so it's very easy to lengthen or shorten. You don't need to worry that much about truing the hems like you do when pants are sort of tapered in or flared out. So very easy to adjust the length on this one. For the skirt version, it's supposed to hit above the knee, which is perfect. I love that. And the shorts, they're quite short. 5-inch inseam. It's not an inseam I would be wearing. If I make the shorts, I would be lengthening those by at least 4 inches for it to be where I'm comfortable with, you know, with shorts. I do wear shorts, I just don't wear those types of short shorts anymore like I did in my teens, you know. I chose a straight size 16, and I'll show you here on a diagram the small adjustments I needed to make. I find that these are very small adjustments in the grand scheme of fitting pants. No changes to the front. I did measure all my crotch lengths. All that stuff is so important. So have a look at that video I have there on how to measure yourself. This other video shows you how to adjust these crotch lengths. In my case, for this pattern, I didn't need to change the length of the crotch at all at the front. So that's just normal. At the back though, it was a little bit short for me. I had to do a slash, spread, and only add at the center back. When you cut across the pattern, you don't cut up to the edge of the paper. You cut up to where your stitching line is, and that's where you open up because you don't want to change the side seam. I added 3/4 of an inch there, and the shape of the curve at the back, I had to scoop it in just at the bottom by 3/8. Just a little tiny thing there to remove some excess fabric I had on the back. That's all I had to do. I mentioned I didn't apply to be a pattern tester for this one, and it's sort of a decision I made a long time ago when I started pattern testing. And you know, I could love a style when I see the pictures there and everything. I could love a style. But if there's like 1 or 2 aspects I would change that I don't want to sew, I'm not going to test, because when you test a pattern, you can't make changes. You can't do hacks like that. You're supposed to test the pattern as it is, you know. So the one feature that for me was a deal breaker in not being a pattern tester was the exposed button fly. I've never really enjoyed a button fly. I have had pants with that feature in the past, and for practical reasons and visual reasons, it's just I am not a fan. So that's why I didn't test this. But you know, the pattern pieces that you use for the button fly can perfectly work for a zipper insertion. I always knew that I love the style of the pattern. It's just the closure method was one that I would change personally in my own sewing, and I would do a zipper instead. For me, I really want to be 100% happy with what I'm sewing, and that all the features that are in the pattern are what I want to wear, what I want to sew. So that's why I'm not going to do that exposed button fly. I know a lot of people are fans of those, that they think they look really cool, that they just look different, all of that, but I am 100% in love with my fly zipper insertions. I have a method I've devised that doesn't snip into the seam allowance. In Up Close and So Personal, what you're going to see is how to cut that curved waistband. There are 3 pieces to this curved waistband, a back, a left, and a right, and that can be a little bit confusing when you are trying to figure out what to interface. You know, the waistband is curved, so there's an external waistband and an internal waistband. So I have simplified it for you. There's also footage about the front curved pockets and the back patch pockets. And the main bulk of the sewing you're going to see is how to put in a fly zipper instead of the buttons, using the same fly facing, the same fly extension. And I am choosing a zipper that is slightly shorter than what this fly is intended to be with buttons. So the notch you're going to see me mark there is maybe 3/4 of an inch higher, which is my aesthetic preference as well. So I'm sharing all that with you. Maybe you want to try this pattern with a zipper instead. Otherwise, the instructions for the fly are super straightforward. You know, you will be able to do that if you want to do that. This is a tip that's going to make cutting waistbands so much easier. If you do it exactly like this, it'll work every time, no matter what pattern you're using. Usually the external waistband is the one interfaced, and the one that goes inside is the one that's not interfaced, right? So you'll see in patterns that you need to cut your pattern pieces and then you cut separately the interfacing pieces. It actually says there, cut 2 and then cut 1 from interfacing. You'll see that on every pattern. But you know I like to do block fusing. It just saves you a step of cutting separate interfacing. Interfacing is slippery, it's hard to cut. When you fuse it onto your fabric, you might shrink your fabric and end up with a smaller waistband. This way is so much easier. What I've done here, I've taken a piece of fabric and I've interfaced it already. The whole thing interfaced. And I've placed these wrong sides together. So this is not traditional, but it's a way to get it correct when you're working with pattern pieces that have a right and a left side. This back waistband comes like this. It says place on the fold. I just created a whole piece because it's so much easier to work with. The back doesn't really matter, it's just one piece. There's no right or left side to it. So I'll just place that there and forget about it. I'll pin it. And I interfaced an area of fabric that I know is enough. This one says left side front waistband. This one says right side front waistband. So if you cut these with your right side of the fabric up and the pattern right sides up like that, you're always going to get them on the right side. When you're trying to do this with fabric on the wrong side, then you start making mistakes. But you can always confirm that on the body. I've already made muslins and confirmed that this is the way that this works. So the interfaced side, which is going to be the one externally, the one that you see, needs to be interfaced. And then on the bottom, you have your other one that's not interfaced. They are wrong sides together. So you have right side fabric here, right side fabric there. And now you just place your pieces and cut them. For these, you need 2 of each. For that, you need 2 of each. You know, one of them will be interfaced, one won't. That's why this piece is interfaced and the one on the bottom isn't. So it's as simple as that. So basically, the right side of the pattern piece with all the printing, all the letters on it, looking up at you. The fabric, right sides up, looking up at you. This side's already been interfaced and you will be good to go to cut these out and it'll be all correct. These are the waistband pieces. The interfaced ones are the ones that you see on the outside and the non-interfaced ones are the ones that go inside. Before removing the pattern piece from this, actually, I wrote with a chalk there right and the same here left. And I've done the same with this one. There's an R there, there's an L there. When I get this and put it on top of there, you have the right piece, you have the right, you have the right, wrong sides together. So it's all good. Just make sure to mark everything before you remove your pattern piece. These are the 2 pattern pieces for the fly. This is the fly extension and this also needs to be interfaced. So I used the same piece of fabric I had interfaced already, put my fabric right sides up and cut it out. Although with this one, it doesn't really matter which side you cut it on. This piece is symmetrical, it doesn't matter, but just to keep it consistent. With this one though, you can see it has a curve there and this actually does need to be cut right sides up. And it actually says on the pattern piece, cut 1 right sides up. That's why this fabric is right sides up and it's already interfaced. I'm going to be using these pattern pieces, but I'm not going to be doing a button fly. I'm going to be doing a zipper fly. The pieces still work. It's just that I'm going to be putting a zipper in there and not buttonholes. These are the main pieces for the pants. This is the back leg, that is the front leg. The back leg has a dart there on the back. The front has this curve there and you have the pocket entrance. I have gone ahead and stabilized those with a narrow strip of fusible interfacing. That's going to replace stay stitching for me right there. This is linen. I really don't want it to deform. I don't want that waist to stretch out while I'm sewing and not match my waistband. So after I sew this dart very carefully, I'm going to also stabilize the top of that waist the same as I did there. Over here is the pocket bag. This is the hip. This is what's going to match that and complete that area there on the top. Pocket bag and the pocket lining. This is what is going to be actually sewn onto that curve over there, right sides together, so you can see that same shape right there. Pieces for the fly front, the facing and the extension. I'm going to be using a zipper instead. I'm not going to do the buttonholes and the buttons, just personal preference. These are the waistband pieces. The interfaced one is the one that you see on the outside. The one that goes on the inside is not interfaced. I have one front leg. I've placed the pocket lining right sides together following the curve. I've sewn it. I've trimmed it down to about 1/4 of an inch and I've snipped it. So it's the same process you do with slash pockets, with any of these types of pockets, and it's just to understitch this, make sure the lining stays inside, especially as this lining doesn't match. I really wanted lightweight lining to create less bulk on the front leg, so I'm doing that, and if you understitch, you won't see it and it'll stay inside. After sewing the pocket lining, all that, flipping it to the inside, it's all there, right there. I've placed the pocket bag on top and they have the same shape here along the edge, rounded up to the center, and it does reach the center front. It will be included in the zipper insertion. I'm just going to serge and sew that. After doing that, I'll just baste the waist here together. I've already got it pinned together, and then I'll baste this along on the hip so that I can forget about it, and all this has been done. This is the left wearer's leg, so if I place this on top of me, this would be my left hip, right? This is where the fly facing is going to be sewn onto, and you know the pockets reach up to the center. So the instructions say to trim away part of this 1.5 inches from the edge in, so that you have less bulk in this area. This is where this facing is going to be sewn onto, and this is the side where you have the top stitching. So if this reached all the way to the edge and then you had your facing, it would be super bulky here. It's not going to look right, and if you're trying to do buttonholes, it might get super bulky. So that's why I've drawn the line from this raw edge in at 1.5 inches, and I'm going to cut both layers off, both of the pocket lining and the pocket bag. Go ahead. This will only reach up to there, but that raw edge there will be covered with this once that is done in a later stage. So this is just on the left. On the right, you have your pocket reach all the way to the center. So I pinned this patch pocket onto my muslin first to make sure where I want it to be, and then I just transferred those markings onto my real pants and onto the pattern piece for when I make it again. This is a print, and I've decided to just do one top stitching row, 1/4 inch from the edge. The amount I folded in is larger than that, of course, and so this will give the pocket a bit of texture on the back, and I think it will make it stand out more being a print. These are the 2 front legs. You can see the crotch curve there. The way I'm going to put this zipper is something already shown in a previous video a couple of years ago, but I'll just do a summarized version. The way I like to do it doesn't involve snipping into anything, and it's just serging these 2 raw edges separately before putting the zipper together. This is the fly extension, and it was an extended piece that was interfaced. It had a little curve at the bottom. So you'd put that right sides together, sew the curve, and then flip this. Now, this had an original width, and I trimmed off 1/4 inch from that because the way I'm going to be sewing on the zipper would affect that. If you were sewing as per the instructions, use the original width here for the button fly. But I'm going to be sewing on a zipper in a different way. I did need to trim off from the edge 1/4 inch there to not affect the waistband. And I'm just going to serge the edge there. I put it right there for the right wearer's side. That is where the zipper gets sewn onto first. And the left side on your body is where you do the top stitching afterwards, where the fly is. So the extension goes on the right and the facing goes on the left. That's why I've got them marked like that. So we'll work on the right first, then on the left. This is the zipper that I'm going to use. It's brown, it matches, and I'll measure from there to the stop. It's just over 7 inches, 7.25 inches, around that. I'd like mine to be a little shorter, the mark here on the center front. So I've got a little blue mark there that matches at the same place on the other side, on the left. So I've got that mark on the same place. And you'll see that if I put the zipper stop right above that, maybe 1/8 of an inch above that, I will have a bit of zipper left over on the top, and that just makes everything so much easier. So I've marked the R again because it was coming off, but this is the right wearer's side. This is where the zipper is going to go. There you can see the blue mark where I want my zipper to finish. I need to just put a pin through the mark so I can see it on the right side where this place is. So I've got that there. And now I'm going to take this zipper and just flip it and have it right sides together with the fabric. This is the right side of the zipper because you've got the pull. So you flip it, you put it on top, and you align that zipper stop with that pin. Just have the zipper stop be a little above that, like 1/8 of an inch, and align the edge of the zipper tape to the edge of the center front. I've already shown you that both center front curves have been serged separately already, so you don't need to worry about finishing that later. Now you grab your extension. The serged edge here will go right on top. I just want it to cover the zipper, so it doesn't have to be that long, just to cover that tape there at the bottom. So that will be aligned on the edge too. I'm just going to use the same pins I had before, and I'm basically sandwiching the zipper tape in between the right center front and this extension. So now at the machine, I'm just going to go and sew. I won't probably be able to do it 1/4 of an inch, but it will be less than 3/8 of an inch seam allowance from the edge with my zipper presser foot. That horizontal pin marks up to where I need to sew, so I don't want to sew further down. That's the little blue line I have there, that's where I want to reach. So when you flip this, you're going to see that this extension is sort of covered behind the zipper, but it doesn't matter. You'll find some extensions that are wider. In this case, because I need this to fit my waistband, when I come along with my right waistband, I want it to be there. You can see this is a little bit longer here, so that doesn't matter. I'll just trim that away once I'm up to the waistband piece. But now I just want to bring this over and now top stitch along the edge there. And just up to there, not down to the very bottom. So that's how that looks. The extension is there behind. This is the left leg, got the L there, and this is the facing that you're going to put right sides together and sew. And this pattern uses a 1/2 inch seam allowance. If you noticed on the right side, I sewed the zipper, the extension, everything, and I used a smaller seam allowance than 1/2 inch. That is important to create the little overlap that I want to create. And look, that's that blue little mark that I had from the other side. It's the same thing. So I'm going to sew from there up and leave this little bit flapping. Remember, we have this pocket here that has been trimmed to be narrower. Just make sure it's out of the way. Okay, so this is the left side where the pocket was trimmed shorter. And now when we take this facing that we've just sewn on and flip it to the inside, you see how it's going to cover it? I left you with this part of the zipper done, that part on the facing sewn. And then you sort of stop doing the zipper and you construct your legs. So you'll put one front and one back right sides together. You'll sew the inseams. So basically next, you will just choose any side you want and turn it right sides out. I'm going to choose the right side and I'm just going to turn it right sides out. And then I'm going to put this leg inside this leg. And then I can finish doing the zipper and the crotch. It'll be separate steps. But it's totally doable, although not very conventional in these types of pattern constructions, but doable. I'll pick up there where I've done the mark on both sides so that they're at the same level and carry on sewing there all the way to the back. Okay, so I've got part of the front crotch there pinned. I've got the inseams matching up, and remember those blue lines I was marking initially? So that's there on the edge. I want that to be at the seam allowance, so at 1/2 inch right there, and that's exactly where I stopped sewing when I sewed this facing on, right? I've got the facing right there. On the other side, I've got the extension, and remember I'd marked the blue line there too on the edge. from the edge there, I want that to be at 1/2 inch seam allowance right there. So that's where my pin is poking out of the fabric. So I've got it pinned right where I stopped sewing, and here it's just going to be a little further than that, and that's going to create a nice little overlap in a little bit. So I'm just going to be super careful here to have this be super accurate. Put that pin across there, and then I'm going to sew from there, that point there, all the way around and catching the back crotch too. Flip this extension out of the way. I'm going to sew right where I'd stopped sewing before, right there. And remember, this is out of the way there. And remember, these two are serged separately. I haven't clipped into anything. I'm just not about the clipping life. Okay, so that was sewn from right there, that blue line at 1/2 inch seam allowance, to the other side that is also at 1/2 inch seam allowance from the edge, from there to there. So all that seam was sewn, including the back. I've gone ahead already serged the back as well. You're going to see here that the zipper is a little further in from that 1/2 inch seam allowance we have here, and that's what's going to make this overlap that and look really nice. Like that will be in there, and you have that little overlap. That's why that was sewn with a smaller seam allowance than this. This was sort of 3/8, this is 1/2 inch, so it is a small overlap, but it's important so that you don't end up with this, like this right on the edge there. If I'd sewn that with the same seam allowance as this, there'd be no overlap there. Okay, so that's the front, that's there. Now this needs to be sewn onto this zipper because it's still flying around, right? So this extension, I'm just going to push it away so it's not in the way. Just fold it back and put a few pins there so it's not interfering. And this at this stage was just pressed in, that's all. So now I'm going to align this there on the center. Remember, there's a little overlap there, in that there. And now I'm going to put my hand in here and grab this facing. Now where I'm going to put the pins here is where I'm going to sew the other side of that zipper onto this facing here on the inside. This stitch is functional and it doesn't need to be close to the zipper teeth at all. You just need to catch the tape to the facing, that's all. Okay, so now we'll take these pins off there. We still keep the shield pin away so it doesn't get in the way. But you can see how now this side of the zipper is sewn onto the facing. But that's not all, because now comes the fun part of the top stitching, where you do that. Now if this was jeans, I do it parallel. I do 2 rows, like I do one and then I do the other. But on linen pants or just formal pants and stuff, I don't do 2, I just do 1. And that's what I'm going to do here. Remember, the edge of the pocket is still raw there. And I have pinned it there where it's supposed to be so it doesn't move. But now, when I top stitch this down, that edge is going to be in there. The top stitching I want to do has to be within the tape, like not over here on the pants. So I'm touching and then I'll measure and draw what I want to do. What I've done is measure 1 inch away from there and drawn the line with a friction pen. Maybe you can see the line there. And down here, I can touch the zipper stop where it is, the metal bulk. So I've drawn my line just under that, right there, so I don't bump into it. And now I'm just going to sew carefully following that line. Okay, I've sewn that and you can see that I've stayed clear of that. That's why you don't sew this all the way down, you just leave it there. So that's done, and you can see how it curves there and it goes underneath the stop. So I've pinned the pins that were holding the extension that way. Now it can actually cover. And when you wear the pants, this covers the zipper, so that's not going to touch your skin. And on this side it looks like that. All very neat, beautiful. And you know, it doesn't really change the pants, it just changes the closure. And you see, I've never ever had to snip into anything. And if this on this side looks like that, it doesn't matter. These are serged separately. I don't really care. I haven't snipped into anything and the fabric is still intact everywhere, you know. Now if you wanted to, you could push all this seam allowance. If you wanted to top stitch, you could push all the seam allowance towards this side, towards the left. So towards the side that has the facing, push it that way. You have a tiny little overlap there, but it doesn't matter. And then you can top stitch from there down all the way if you want to top stitch. I'm not going to be doing that. The other thing that jeans have you do is do buttocks, one there, and that holds the extension in place. I don't really like doing buttocks at all. It's just something I don't like. So I'm just going to put a pin there. And what I'm going to do down here is sew this together there, right there. I'm just going to do a stitch there. It's not going to affect anything and it'll hold it in place. So no buttock, it's super clean, it's super nice, super neat. And on the other side, that seam there is going to hold this extension there and keep it from flapping to the other side. On the top, I know I have excess here. I'm just going to trim this out, even it all out. I'm going to keep this pulled down until I'm ready to sew the waistband so that I don't accidentally pull it up while I trim this away. Okay, so I've neatened out the center fronts. I've trimmed away the excess zipper and I've pulled out a few teeth, just about 1/2 inch worth, because that's how much I'm going to take up to sew up the waistband. And I don't want teeth to be there inside the waistband, same as on this side. So I won't be pulling this up, just in case, you know, I get this to come flying off. I'll just leave it like that and then put on the waistband. I'll show you the ones I made first. Very printed linen, colorful linen. I know they're going to be a bit wild for a lot of you, but they are perfect for me. They are special pants, you know, statement pants, if you will. And I wanted these to be shorter. I made these 4 inches shorter than the cropped. So they are definitely like sort of capri length on me, and I love that length. I also think it's a length that looks really cool with boots underneath. If you want to make one in corduroy for like winter, I think it's a very cool look. And I would definitely dress like that if I had the context of the weather to accompany that. There is the curved waistband. I have those buttons that you hammer in. The fly there, I've only top stitched it once. You can barely see it because of the print. You saw how that was done. It's super simple. I already have a video on the channel that I filmed about 2 years ago. Maybe you want to see that one as well, because it is the same thing. I promise you, you're going to like it and you don't have to snip into anything. So that's how I do all my zippers. I love this technique, and whatever the pattern has suggesting me, I like this one the best. Because it's print, I didn't top stitch much. You know, I did the entrance of the pockets. I only top stitched it once at 1/4 inch. You know, no one's gonna actually see that. And at the back you saw that I did the same with the pockets, in the hopes that it would just highlight them more if they have a bit of texture coming out of there, instead of making them flat with an edge stitch as well. I didn't top stitch the back crotch curve either, I just left it like that. So these were pretty simple to put together. It didn't take me that long at all. You saw that my pocket lining was a navy. It's what I had, that, you know, that I had. It doesn't match, but you can't see it. And when you look at the pants inside, you can't see that navy lining either because it's underneath. And I did want it to be lightweight, because at the end, in the front, you end up with 3 layers. You have the layer of the legs, the lining, and the bag, and they go all across. So if you go heavyweight on all of them, it'll be quite bulky on the front, and I just wanted to keep it lightweight. It goes right up to the center on both sides, and when you wear it, it feels super comfortable. Curved waistband. You know me, you've seen me sew this before. I will link below to other videos that I have filmed already on how I sew waistbands. It's fun. I just do some hand basting, and that always ensures I get a really nice result. My shorter versions. These pants are originally cropped, but from the original length I chopped off 4 extra inches. So these are definitely more cropped, and I love this length. It's a length that I really enjoy wearing. It's fresh. Yeah, I'm not planning to wear this with boots or anything like that in the winter, but it would be a good length to wear with boots underneath. I like that look, but that just doesn't apply to my context. Crazy print, same fit, same everything, also linen. I made these first, and because I love these so much, I then went ahead and made the brown ones. Because these are printed, I didn't go crazy on the top stitching, just did regular basic top stitching because no one's gonna actually appreciate it. So there's just one row of top stitching there on the pocket entrance, the same one row on the zipper fly because I do that with linen. The waistband is up here, it's curved, super comfy. At the back I have those patch pockets that are very hard to see because of the print, but they are there, and it's just the same lovely fit. The only feature that would be missing from like a traditional jean would be that this one doesn't have a yoke at the back, you know, but I have it in mind to hack that and to make a yoke. I'm really excited about that because I like these pink ones so much and I love the fit and everything. I went ahead and made a boring pair, the brown pair, the one that is going to go with more things. For this one I didn't make them shorter, I just used the original length of the pants, so they will be cropped. Slightly more cropped on me. I think I had to do a smaller hem allowance. I did take my time to do really nice top stitching with tan color thread. I did do it double there. It looks just like jean pockets. You know, I've got the same blue lining in there. The zipper has been sewn only once. I would do it twice there, only for jeans actually. I think discreet like that looks really nice. At the back I did top stitch down that dart just to make it pop, although no one's gonna ever see it. And the pockets I did sew these twice, so I've got the parallel top stitching there. Super neat. You know, my presser feet help me to get nice results. It's not that I'm magically sewing super straight. It's a presser feet, I promise you. If you don't use them, you are missing out. And they're not expensive, you know, a 1/4 inch foot, an edge foot, that's all you need. The back curve is also top stitched. It's just like jeans basically. And the front also. Honestly, if you don't top stitch this curve, I think the pants fit better. When you sew that seam allowance down, I think it does affect the fit on jeans, on pants in general. But I still did it, you know. What I did do though is trim that seam allowance smaller, so I didn't leave it at 1/2 inch. I left it maybe at less than 3/8, and that helps them sit better. I was being really stingy in my fabric cutting, and I wanted to get a skirt also, a glissando skirt out of this brown linen. That meant that I cut the inner waistbands out of cotton. It's a really nice cotton, and it's got animal print like lions and things. No one's gonna see them. So I did that to save fabric. And the pocket bag, I also cut it out of this fabric, so I didn't have to use that out of the linen. In saving like this meant I was able to get my skirt. I have a skirt cut out already with the same everything, you know, the same type of cotton inside. At the top here, it's really stable, and it's because inside I put some selvage from this same cotton, 3/8 strip of selvage, put it there, and when I was sewing these together on the top, I put that there and sewed it there, and that just stabilizes the top. Curved waistbands have areas that are sort of on the bias, and they will stretch out and sag, so that selvage inside keeps it really stable, and it's not a waistband that when you wear it during the day it's just gonna stretch out and deform, you know. So that is something extra that I like to do with my curved waistbands. And of course I did it with this one, you know, because why not? So if I had the winter life, I could definitely see this being styled in a more winter way with boots. But it's not my case, although in the lookbook that's coming, you're going to see it in 2 different styling, one more summer and one with a jacket, although not with boots. So let's see how this one fits. These are a cropped linen version. They finish quite a bit above my ankle. I like this length in pants. In this style of pant, I really do like cropped lengths, and I have done this crop length before with other pants. It's not a foreign style to me, and I like that it's fitted up here on the top and then just goes down from the hips straight down. I'll show you up close. The waistband is curved and it's fitted. Then we have these curved pockets. I've top stitched them there with tan thread so that they do stand out and you can see them. They have quite a nice depth, although I'll never use them. You can see my fly zipper insertion, super nice, and I've only top stitched it once, not double like I do on jeans. I did though top stitch the crotch on the front and the back and the inseam. I'm sure you can't see that. There are some back darts there that I did top stitch, but the patch pocket there is covering them partially. I did play around with where it was going to look better for me, and I always decide on a higher placement of pockets so that they don't go down that way. They are wide legs, so they're not supposed to cup the bottom like tight pants. It's just drape over the bottom and down the leg, and I think the fit's good for wide leg pants. That's how they look at the bottom. There is a deepish hem. I decided to do mine at just over an inch, but it's supposed to be deeper at 2 inches. Otherwise they would have been too short for me. I mentioned I was also making skirts, and if you know me, I wear skirts all the time, and these types of skirts are staples for me. I have a few fabrics already separated and I want to make 2 or 3 more, and I will show those in a separate video. In that separate video, I'll show you how to do a trick on the pockets to save fabric that I didn't show in this one. I'll also show a little bit more about the curved waistband, because otherwise this video would have been an hour long and I can't take all that time from you. Plus, yeah, I feel really bad when my videos are long, but you need to understand these videos have a lot of sewing footage in there. If I wanted to make them short, it means I would just put the sewing and not talk to you at all, which is not something I want to do. So I hope this was practical for you. I hope you got a few tips that can work for your patterns, any pattern you're making. If you like this pattern, it's 25% off during the release week, and you can use my affiliate link if you want to. At no extra cost to you, you can support me that way because I make a small commission. So if you use my link, thank you so much. Neighbors are cutting grass, so I have to go. I will see you very soon. Bye.